Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my weekly review for this week's episode for The Walking Dead Season 7. This one's for Episode 4. It's called Service. Alright, and spoiler warning for this one if you guys haven't seen this episode yet. So this one is a really crazy episode. Extended episode. Was looking forward to it quite a bit, and it didn't disappoint. Now, I do have to say, because this puts us in a very weird spot for the series, and the best thing I can compare it to is Game of Thrones. When you have, in Game of Thrones, I'll keep it spoiler free, but you have essentially the group that you follow, or the good guys. In some cases, some parts throughout the series, they lose, pretty much is what it is. They lose, so they don't win every battle. Now, it's not as bad in Walking Dead as it is in Game of Thrones, where you see a whole faction of people being killed that you follow. But in the Walking Dead TV series, instead, what we see is Negan allows Rick and the others to survive past the premiere, but now we're seeing why. He's taking everything from them. And this episode really illustrates, and this part of the series really illustrates what happens in warfare. And actually, Negan is being very reasonable. He's being very lenient on them because it could get a lot worse. And in the real world, it does get a lot worse, actually, after war. You can study World War II. You can get into the things that happen throughout the different stages of the war and certain countries, when certain countries had defeated others and what happened. There's a saying in Germany, the women had there is better to have a Russian over your belly than an American over your head. And what it meant was that basically Americans bombed the shit out of Germany, right? And the Russians were coming through. And of course, one of the customary things about war that nobody ever talks about is that after it's kind of customary, it kind of like it occurs is what we're saying here is often when you have one versus another, when you have one country versus another, one faction versus another, and one of them wins the war, they win the battles, they win the war, it's kind of customary to rape the women. And that is brutal. That's brutal, and that's real. That's not fictional, that's real world shit, right? So in this one we're seeing with The Walking Dead, Rick and the group has surrendered. They have lost the battle against the Saviors. If you want to call it a war, they have surrendered, they have lost. In this one, they, put up the white flag 100%. They allow Negan and the Saviors to come in and take everything. Luckily, we haven't seen too much rape as of yet, which is, I feel like is a good thing. They're kind of playing a little bit more safe than they could, I suppose. But there's even like some lines in this one that are pretty dark. You have Negan who talks about, maybe bringing Maggie back. It's brutal. Dwight is kind of making advances at Rosita and taking her hat and stuff, kind of messing with her a little bit. You have this kind of thing going on. Even Negan mentions about Michonne too, is pretty brutal. And the thing is like when they give up all their weapons, now they put themselves in a situation, they didn't really have too much of a choice, but now that they've given away all of their weapons, they put themselves in a situation where they have absolutely no ability to fight back whatsoever, at least for now. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. They could not fight back because they have no firearms. Negan and the Saviors have taken everything. They had the men, they had the manpower to begin with. And at this time, it's pretty much like, to sum it up, Rick and the survivors right now are in a place where they're just lucky to even be alive at all. So as a viewing experience, where does that put us in terms of getting to see our group of protagonists? We followed Rick and the others all the way through the series. It puts us in a really, really weird spot. It puts us in a place where it's like we're used to seeing Rick and the others win. We're used to seeing Rick and the others, kill the governor. Michonne kills the governor at the end after the battle. Even if they lose, a few people are killed, this kind of deal. Rick and the others are able to kind of get away. It's all in disarray, but at least they beat the governor. They kill him in the end of that battle. This is a case where Rick and the others have totally lost 100%, and now they're surrendering, giving over all their stuff, which is really brutal. So it puts you in a really weird mind frame. The frame, I guess the best thing you could compare it to is when, during war, when one side surrenders to the other. This is what it feels like. It feels like kind of giving up everything. One country beats another, they allow the enemy to march right in, take whatever they want, maybe fine them. That happens in the real world as well too, is that you'll get one country that will force another country after losing the war to pay every year some kind of a dollar amount, economic amount every year to pay for the war costs, this kind of thing. And it's pretty brutal. So Negan, for the most part, is being a lot more lenient than it probably seems like to the average viewer, and how bad it could get. It certainly could get a lot worse. So that said, weird spot for us to be in the series. Definitely has some weird feels associated with it, right? I'm sure there's going to be lots of people who are like, I hate this episode. I hate this because we're almost in the same shoes. They've even used a lot of point of view shots this season in the premiere, making us feel like we're surrendering with Rick and understanding where he's at. But it really puts us in a weird feeling situation, being right in those shoes, being right there with them as they surrender and are very helpless. So very feelings of helplessness, shame, a lot of shame for sure, sadness, and all of these things kind of coming in together, which I think is normal under this type of situation, and is necessary for the storytelling to go forward for us to get through this part. It may not be the most enjoyable thing to watch because of that. Now you do have some things that are mixed in there to make it more fun. You've got Negan, who, even though he's the bad guy and he's pretty brutal and some of the things he says are in horrible taste, he's still funny in some cases too, like the line about... and a lot of these are from the comics as well. So comic readers were probably looking forward to a lot of these, and they were great. Am I the only one who noticed that you have a fat lady in charge of rations? So there's definitely some, funny lines throughout the episode. So let's go through each part and we'll give our thoughts. And of course, the one thing I did not expect to see was the huge reveal at the end, and major spoiler warning for that one, that Judith is actually Shane's, and Rick knows it. See, I was under the impression, and this is something we've debated for over 5 years, in the comics originally, yes, Judith is Shane's. In the TV series, to me, it always seemed like it's possible it could be Rick's. So it's really nice because they can change it, right? They can go one direction in the comics. The TV series doesn't have to follow. But I really liked how they worked that in this episode, because it's been something that we have wondered since the first season. It's something that personally I have probably done 5 or 6 different videos, Q&As and things like that, where at least, probably more than that, probably over a dozen, where it's been discussed who is Judith's father. It was great in this episode that they added that in there, and I felt like it made sense because Rick was trying to illustrate to Michonne that sometimes you don't have to like it, but in order to survive, you have to go ahead with something. You have to just accept it. You just have to. That's what you have to do. So that, I thought, really elevated this episode for me and made it a lot better episode than it could have been, because they extended it. So I'm glad they extended this one. The beginning of the episode was good. You had kind of like the promo sneak peek stuff that we got to see this week leading up to it. We've got like the part where Negan says service and that, and he's being a little what's the word, a little flamboyant or dramatic about it with his mannerisms and stuff. I like when he gives Lucille to Rick and he asks him to hold this. That's pretty good. Let's see. Rick, don't make me have to ask. The Negan whistle and the big bad wolf is a good introduction there as well too. Another line from the comics we waited for a long time is the big bad wolf line, 3 little pigs, and I liked how they actually had like 3 of them there, like in the immediate vicinity: Eugene, Rosita, and Spencer. That was good. Spencer's like, "Who are you?" This kind of thing, and then they let him in. So that's the intro after the whole this, and I did like how Rick is kind of like, he's holding, Lucille, but he's kind of getting shaky a few times throughout the episode because he's trying to control himself not to just take it and attack Negan and like bash him with it or something like that. So after the intro, we get Negan liking Alexandria, so he's really impressed by Alexandria. He likes it a lot. I mean, compared to most places in the zombie apocalypse, Alexandria is pretty sweet. It's really nice. I mean, you've got the houses and everything. Everybody has their own beds. Well, not anymore, but they did. The wall is nice and everything, and it's a pretty sweet community given a zombie apocalypse and what certain places can look like. It certainly looks better, I want to say, than the Sanctuary, the Savior's home base. So then we've got Daryl. We've got the good scene where Rick and Daryl kind of meet eye to eye, and a few times Rick asks if he wants to kind of talk to Daryl, and Negan interrupts him and says no talking to him. and kind of asks if they can have Daryl back after everything they've given up. And it seems for a minute like Negan might do it, but because Daryl doesn't say anything, the answer is no, of course. The Dwight scene with Rosita, this is an uncomfortable one, and it's part of what I kind of touched on before. It could be a lot worse than it was, and this is some dark stuff, this episode. Definitely some dark stuff, and like I mentioned before, it may make some people uncomfortable, and I think that's normal. That's totally normal how Dwight treats her and everything. It's, it doesn't help Dwight as a character that they have him do that, because it just makes him seem more like a villain and makes him more to the point where he's irredeemable. He can't be redeemed at any point, even if he tries to go against Negan at some point or sometime. If he flips, and tries to turn on him, it'll be hard to root for Dwight. I think it's almost impossible to root for Dwight at this point, especially after the way he's treating Rosita. Forces her and Spencer along with her to go get Daryl's bike. It's like what? And then Dwight kind of uses the bike to sort of try to entice Daryl even further to become a savior like him. Really weird stuff. So we've got Michonne. She's doing her target practice and she keeps missing, but she lands a deer, and they even take the deer after, which was also brutal. Cooperation tickles my balls. Jesus, man bush. That was funny when he sees Rick with this figure right here I have right there, has it with the beard and everything. Season 5 type deal. It's funny. We've got the widow's line from Negan's terrible, absolutely horrible. And again, this is some of the darker stuff that we're talking about. We've got Lucille, Gabriel, creepy as shit. That was funny. Okay, that was really Gabriel smiling in the whole gear and everything. I love that sequence when Negan meets Gabriel for the first time. That was really funny. She didn't make it, shit. So I think some viewers may actually be confused by that one. So they're referring to Maggie. They show him the grave, everything like that. It all works out fine. And to be honest, Rick lied about it, but it's probably good that he did because of what Maggie's been through so far, and what Negan and the Savers might do to her. They might know she's not dead. Maybe after she's not. She may want to act like she's sick for a couple years or something. That's probably a good idea. Rosita close to that type of situation as well too. We're starting to see some of that, but it might get worse because now that they have all the guns, there's literally like nothing that they can do. I mean, even if they try to punch him or something, it's like whatever. They don't have the ability, they don't have the functionality, the capability to just shoot or kill the Saviors like that. They've got very few guns now. Just like Rosita's got like one, wants Eugene to make her bullets, which was cool as well too, to see the start of that in the TV series version. So this episode is loaded with comic book content, and that I love, of course, because the Walking Dead comic book series. I've had this shirt since season 1. It's pretty sweet, right? I bought it in season 1. It still fits. Then we've got, let's see, yeah, Carl. So Carl acts out. It's just fun, which I actually like that scene a lot. Dangerous, right? So he says how dangerous they all are, and your giant man-sized balls. That was funny. I did like that one quite a bit. And so you have a lot of guns, all mine. Where are my guns? Then we have Olivia with the guns, the food and stuff, but Negan's not taking any of their food because, well, it seems like he probably has enough, and they probably don't have hardly any. Thank you. You forced my hand. Let's see. We've got all in there. Rosita. Spencer blames Rick. Right. So we've got that. And then we've got the sequence where Rosita kills a few zombies and getting one gun, fighting for one gun that doesn't have any ammo. The bazooka is funny. And that's the part where what does he say? Little Timmy and his dick and the dick parade. So he finds out that they're the ones who did it. He probably always wondered who did that. But now this is a tricky one because we saw the car in the background when that was filmed. So maybe that was a mistake that the car was in the background and No Way Out. Maybe that actually was not supposed to be there and it was not a spotter because it seems like Negan doesn't know that they were the ones that did that, which is kind of weird, but it's funny. And then we've got a Bobcat and a Glock that are missing. 2 handguns short, and now it gets a little bit more intense with Olivia and Negan threatening to kill her if they don't find the guns. So they do end up finding the guns. Gabriel's still positive about everything. He's still like, everything's cool, we're going to be fine, we're going to get through today, we're going to be okay. Yeah, man, crazy. So let's see, we've got give it up. You, sir, are special. So I did like the line where he says to Rick that he is special. I think he realizes how good Rick really is, and that he really probably wants to get Rick on his side, because Rick is probably at the same level as one of his lieutenants, like Simon or somebody like that, in terms of what he can do, only that he's a really good guy, and he's not, he's not, well, he's a pretty good guy. I won't say he's a really good guy. He's a pretty good guy. Daryl's gonna have to go back and earn for me, have something for us, or someone else is gonna die. Grab that deer, which is crazy. And then we get a few more sequences afterwards when the episode normally would end. We've got Spencer in the food. We got the line between him and Rick threatening to beat his ass because of what he's saying. Granted, Rick probably doesn't want to do that either, because he made a promise to Denise and everything, so he probably doesn't want to hurt Spencer. But at the same time, people are getting at each other, and they go from a state that they were in before to total scarcity. They don't have beds to sleep in. They don't have any weapons at all, pretty much. They have like knives and stuff like that. I mean, if someone attacks them, they're going to be in a really bad state for sure. And it's just they got to get something good. So I really like the theory that maybe the wolves were under Negan, and that Negan did know where the wolves were and everything, and maybe they were so desperate because of what and had so little because they were feeding up to Negan too. Maybe. So I hope to see something with that. But it really does set in kind of the danger that the group is in now because of the group like that being prior, us getting to see them prior. Rick and the others are going to have to make dangerous runs now. Next episode is called Go-Getters. And they're going to have to be go-getters. They're going to have to go out there and, get stuff and, go on some more dangerous runs, take more risks to get more supplies, because they're going to have to give probably more than half to Negan and the Saviors. So in the end, we've got the Make Me a Bullet. So the beginning of Eugene getting started with making bullets. We've got the Judith Isn't Mine, which is the best, which I think I'll do a whole video on this week probably, or start to a Q&A at least, to finally get that confirmation. Really elevates this episode for me as a viewer for sure. And I think that's pretty much it for the episode. I mean, it's an extended episode, so there's lots of dialogue, lots of lines. It's a big episode for comic book fans. We got the Negan, the candlestick kill. That's funny. Nobody died. We've got the Dick line about him thanking him and everything, which is funny. And it's a really, really weird place to be in for the series for sure, and for Rick and our survivors. In terms of score, I'm going to give it a 9.1 out of 10. It's an intense episode. I'm glad they extended it. I'm glad they included the line about Judith and Shane. I thought that was really a great add-in. And, if you hated the episode, if you really didn't like it because of the state that the survivors are in right now, I think that's normal. It doesn't mean you have to hate the series as a whole. I saw a lot of that this time of when this happened, type of thing happened in Game of Thrones, which was even worse, but a lot of people hated it. All I would say is just relax with it. During a long story like this, you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have the group's going to win. They're going to have heroic moments. They're going to have happy moments and things that are going on great, overcoming adversity. And this is when the law of averages catches up, as Rick said last season, and the group actually loses. Now that they've lost, how does that feel? What does that feel like? Do we get to see it from their perspective? We do. And how do you feel as a viewer about it? So write your comments below, guys. Let me know how you felt about it. If you hated it, I get it. Totally understandable right now. I would say try not to quit watching the show or to be like, oh, I hate the show. I hate it. It's terrible now. This is the worst season ever. Because remember, it's an overarching, huge story, long story, like following a life of these characters in the zombie apocalypse. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad, and this just happens to be one of the worst times they've ever been in, because this is like one of the only times they've ever had to surrender. Maybe this and Terminus, except Terminus was quick. This is slow and more painful, I want to say. So let me know what you guys thought about the episode. Maybe some of your favorite lines from Negan. Write it in the comments below and everything. Let me know how you're feeling, guys. I hope you're doing good and everything. And, of course, we'll be back in an hour for the predictions video. Send me your questions for the Q&As for this week, because we'll do lots just like we did last week, just like we do every week. And if you like this video, please don't forget to thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite. And if you're new and you want to subscribe, you can subscribe at the bottom left. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. I'll see you soon.